Since the Democrats did not like the result of the election, you would think that they will be focusing on the midterms coming up, but instead they are engaging in a judicial coup d'etat. The reason they are not focused on the midterms is because they are not confident that they can take back control of the House of Representatives in 2 years because they have no leader and they have no valid message. The Democrat Party has a 21% approval rating with voters in this country. And why? Because their only message is Trump is bad. They've gone so far as to attack people for driving electric vehicles. They openly admit that they are DEI hires, and they claim that the reason they're not popular with voters right now is because they are not opposing Trump enough. That's the reaction to their failure. Their solution is to become more extreme and more unpopular with their policies. This question must be asked: does the Democrat Party hate President Trump more than they love our country and more than they love the safety of my fellow Americans? This might explain why they are willing to overtly defend members of Trinidad MS-13 rather than stand up and clap for a child with a terminal brain cancer illness, or for a young man admitted to West Point, my alma mater, or for a family of a gentleman who was murdered in Butler, Pennsylvania. Trump derangement syndrome is real. It's a real thing. And sanctuary policies are harming my fellow Americans, as my witnesses have testified here today. This U.S. congressman is tired of seeing mothers, daughters, and wives of Americans raped, maimed, and murdered by Trinidad and MS-13 and other violent criminals that have snuck across the border to destroy this great nation. All of us should support ICE raids, the hard work of Tom Homan, Customs and Border Protection, and the policies of our duly elected Commander-in-Chief.
Chris Highland Show. Really appreciate everyone rolling up. We got a great show for you today. We have got to cover the fact that the Dems are in just total free fall. We talked yesterday about the Dems civil war that's going on, but now we're going to talk about the fact that they have come completely unhinged. They are off the rails. They are absolutely losing what is left of their base because they are doubling down on the ultra left, the socialist, the woke, the nonsense. And they seem to have absolutely no measure of self-introspection. They cannot look themselves in the mirror and ask the simple question, why did we lose? And give an honest answer. Their answer is, we weren't Trump deranged enough. We called him Nazi and Hitler and everything bad for months and months and months, every single minute of every single day. But that wasn't enough. We've got to fight Trump more. So we're going to dive into this. We got a lot of great videos. We got Byron Donalds absolutely owning this nonsense. We got man on the street interviews. It's going to be fantastic. Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for rolling up. Lynn Sanger, first one in the house. Thank you for being here. Resnap also rolling up. Really appreciate it. All Democrats have is hate, no ideas. That is so true. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate you being here. Please like, comment, and subscribe to Chris Highland Show. And if you like the comment, also share it with everybody that you know. All right, let's dive right in. We are going to jump into the polls that are telling us the fact of what we're going to witness over the next couple minutes, that the Dems are in absolute free fall, and even CNN is saying it. Here we go.
My goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers.
And this is the number right here really driving all of this. If Democratic voters have turned on Democrats in Congress and the Democratic Party, that's what puts the numbers at historic lows. What is it they want to be seeing, these voters?
What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. They don't like what's coming out of some of those Senate Democrats like Chuck Schumer, because take a look at the direction of the party. Democratic voters on Democrats in Congress doing too little to oppose Donald Trump. Look at this, 77% should stay principled, even if it means nothing gets done in Washington, D.C., 65%. And this 65% is such a difference from where we were in 2017 at this point, when just 33% of Democrats say they should stay principled, compared to 59% who said they want to compromise. Democrats do not want compromise at this point. They want a fighter. They want to go into the ring like Muhammad Ali did against Sonny Liston. They want to take down the Republicans. They do not want this compromise anymore. They want to be more like Republicans, can get up to that stage and fight. And right now they feel like their leaders in Congress are simply put not doing so. And that is why their approval rating for congressional Democrats is at an all-time low, even among Democrats with more disapproving than approving.
Yeah, it seems that these Senate Democrats, some of them are banking on the idea that there is still a political middle, as it were. We will see. We will see.
We will see if there's a political middle, but at this point, count me skeptical that that is at least what the Democrats.
I just love this part right here. 21% approval for the congressional Democrats. Nobody likes them. Nobody, not even Democrats. 49% of Democrats can't stand the Democrat Congress. So this is just absolutely great stuff. 68% disapproval, 21% approval. We've also got coming up, we've got Gallup jumping in on the action. But this is an absolute abysmal showing for Democrats. They have no clue. They are rudderless, leaderless, feckless. And that is because it's becoming apparent now to the American public that the Democrats have never stood for anything, certainly not in the last 30 years. They have been lying and gaslighting the American people, lying to and gaslighting the American people for decades. They have said they were the party of the working class. They never were. They outsourced your jobs with NAFTA. They wanted to outsource your jobs with the Trans-Pacific Partnership. They outsourced your jobs by creating trade deals with high tariffs from other countries and zero tariffs for us, allowing every Tom, Dick, and Harry, slave sweatshop country to basically use slave labor and import cheap products, undermining American businesses and offshoring those jobs. They have done this for decades. They didn't care because they were in with the globalists and the giant corporations. And the giant corporations love slave labor because it's cheaper. They make more money. That's what this is all about. The Democrats have never been the party of the working class, certainly not in the last 30 plus years. And they are not pro-America. They are anti-America. They are 100% pro-globalist. That's why every Democrat president and frankly, every Republican uniparty president, other than Donald Trump, has started a myriad of new foreign wars on their watch. It was a guarantee, no matter who you elected, Democrat or Republican, you were going to get more spending, more foreign wars, more government handouts. The only question was, to what degree? Were we going to increase the budget by 50% under a Democrat or only 30% under a Republican, a uniparty globalist hack? Well, now that Trump is in office, Americans, for the second time, because he was in there 4 years before, and their eyes started to open. But now I think people are really getting their eyes completely open as to how evil the Democrats are, how out of touch they are, how completely off the shelf. And that's because they are now standing with the 5 or the 10% on virtually every issue. They are showing, we called it the old show your ass theory. They are showing you who they are. Check this out. So here we've got the Soros-backed district attorney, Mary Moriarty, is refusing to charge people who have vandalized Teslas in Minneapolis, causing 20,000, refusing to charge. Why? Because they're all in with the terrorists. They love domestic terrorism as long as it's anti-Trump. That's all they care. As Enton said, there's a bunch of Democrats who, as long as you oppose Trump, they really don't care what principles you have. So here you've got a district attorney flatly refusing to uphold the law. This is what they're doing. And so that's the one hill there. They love domestic terrorists. They are all in for the Luigi Mangionis out there who unalived the United Healthcare CEO. They're behind him. They're behind these morons. They are behind anything anti-Trump, regardless if it's domestic terrorism or not. And this is the hill they're going to die on. This is the hill that they have chosen to die on. This is it. This is your Democrat Party, upheld by their cronies in the lamestream propaganda media, which is itself having major problems now that it is no longer funded by US taxpayers. We're going to get into that a little bit. CNN, PMSLSD, the New York Slimes, they're all propping them up. Go fight, fight for MS-13, fight for open borders, fight for mass criminal illegals, fight for them voting, fight for them getting $15,000 a month when the average American worker makes 1/3 of that. This is who the Democrats stand for. And it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, along that line, you remember that there were 4 congressmen who went to El Salvador. There's actually been 5. You've got the one idiot senator. You've got 4 congressmen who went to El Salvador to, again, demand the release of a criminal, illegal terrorist gangbanger. And the El Salvadoran government basically said, yeah, why don't you go pound sand? We're not even going to listen to you. We're not even going to meet with you. This is from one of the attendees of that little soiree, the representative from Florida. And this is what he had to say a few years ago. Effing with me gang, gonna get you. This is who these morons have elected to Congress. And this is who the congressional Democrats have chosen to represent them on the world stage as they sent them down. Hopefully, they wanted to use taxpayer money, but James Comer said, no. You want to go to El Salvador and violate the Logan Act? You can do it on your own dime. And so what we need to see happen now, what I want to see happen, I want to see Pam Bondi come down with charges against these morons, all 5 of them. None of them had the authorization of the executive branch to conduct foreign policy. And they all conducted foreign policy that was in direct contravention of the foreign policy of the Trump administration, which by definition of the Constitution is the foreign policy of the United States. Arrest them for Logan Act violations. I want to see it now. Perp walk them out of their office right into a federal holding cell, please. This is getting absolutely ridiculous. And it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. Now, in addition to that, you've got the Democrats who are openly shilling for these people. It's absolutely crazy. Before we get into this clip from Charlie Kirk, which I think hits the nail on the head, just want to give a few more shout outs. Thanks everybody who has rolled up. Really appreciate everybody being here. Capo in the house. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much. Please smash that like button. We got a bunch of people watching. Smash the like button, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this comment, if you enjoy the content, please share it with all your friends. All right, let's check out Charlie Kirk as he talks about exactly what hill, one of the hills, these ridiculous Democrats want to die on. Here we go.
Campaign. Now, this is the one that shows how morally dark the Democrat Party has become. This one shows how they are against the United States of America. So you would think that if President Donald Trump wants to go deport people, you think, oh, it's only going to be nannies and agricultural workers. No. Embedded in our communities, ICE knew the names, they knew their locations, they knew their criminal histories. And they were just sitting around, probably committing other crimes. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, while they were president, refused to act on these people because it would be against the national religion of the American Democrat Party. Thou shalt not deport a foreigner. Yesterday, over 500 violent, emphasis on violent, over 500 violent criminal illegals were removed from the streets in 36 hours. These are thugs whose whereabouts in crimes were well known by local officials. But Democrats refuse to detain them because it might hurt their feelings. It might hurt the feelings of a child sex trafficker or a child rapist. Democrats can't possibly hurt the feelings of a drug smuggler, can't possibly hurt the feelings of a gun runner. Every single one of these arrests means that there will be one less Laken Riley, one less Jocelyn Nungari, and one less Rachel Morin. Any Democrat sanctuary jurisdiction refusing to comply, or worse, actively impeding President Trump's deportation orders must be defunded and likely prosecuted. Mess around and find out.
Exactly. This is who the Democrats stand with and for. They don't stand for union workers. They don't stand for auto workers. They don't stand for the pipe fitters. They don't stand for any of those people. They stand for the illegal criminal gangbangers, all illegals. Doesn't matter if they're criminals or not. They love the illegals. Why? Because they can control them. They can no longer control the union auto worker. They can no longer control the union pipe fitter, the union electrician. Those people have found a voice, and they're realizing that regardless of what their union does, their vote is their own. Even if they're forced to pay ridiculous dues, their vote is their own. The Democrats can no longer control them because they have woken up to the fact that the Democrats hate them. They hate working class Americans. They love illegals and elitists. They want an income disparity like you've never seen before by default, because that's who they support. And Charlie Kirk has it absolutely correct. Now, this gets even more ridiculous because what are some of the other hills that they want to die on? They want to die on the hill of open borders and illegal criminal aliens. They want to die on the hill of we want unfair trade practices. We love it when other countries rip America off. So Trump can't, we don't want Trump to implement his tariff and his tax plan. We don't want any of that. Well, the other thing they want, you've got to see this. Dems they are rushing, they are careening to the left because they think that in ultra leftist socialism, they're going to find victory, and they won't. Check this out.
Hour. You're calling for a $50 an hour federal minimum wage. That's 7 times the current national minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. Can you explain how that would be economically sustainable for small businesses? You have 60 seconds.
It wouldn't.
First, let me say I owned and ran a small business for 11 years. I created hundreds of jobs, benefits, retirement benefits, also health care benefits. I know what worker productivity means, and that means that you have to make sure that your employees are taken care of and have a living wage. In the Bay Area, I believe it was the United Way, came out with a report that very recently, $127,000 for a family of 4 is just barely enough to get by. Another survey very recently, $104,000 for a family of 1, barely enough to get by. Low income because of the affordability crisis. And so just do the math. Just do the math.
The affordability crisis is because of you idiot Democrats. You're the ones who created the affordability crisis. And I'm highly dubious of her. I ran a small business and I employed hundreds of people and I want a $50 minimum wage. Now, she wants a federal minimum wage, which means it would apply to everybody. So it would be spreading the misery across all of America. And all that would manage to do is gut entry-level jobs because no one is going to pay $50 an hour if somebody doesn't make them $50 an hour. That's the problem. If you can't hire, if an employee makes you $45 an hour and you're paying them $50 an hour, you're losing $5 every hour. The owner will go do it themselves. They're not going to hire someone at a loss. So somehow you would only be hiring workers for jobs, for businesses where that worker is productive to the level of making $55, $60, $65, $70 an hour. They're not even going to do it for 51. If they're making 51 or 52, it's not worth the churn. So this woman, I owned a business. I find that highly dubious given this ridiculous state. But this is what they want. They want $50 an hour minimum wage. They want to pay illegals $15,000 a month. They want all the criminal illegals in the country. They want the open borders so the fentanyl can flow across. They want the children to be trafficked, as they did for the last 4 years, to the tune of 500,000 of them. This is the hill that the Democrats are dying on, and it is no longer popular. They have now even equated Trump, again, Trump is the criminal, not the criminals, not Kilmar Abrego Garcia. No. Trump is the criminal. And we've got none other than Jasmine Crockett, possibly the dumbest congresswoman on the planet, but here we go.
But here's the reality. As far as I'm concerned, he's a lot less criminal than the person that's sitting in the White House. Because last time I checked, he doesn't have any criminal convictions. I don't even think he has any outstanding cases versus the guy that still had cases pending when he was sworn in on January 20th and also has 34 felony convictions. So listen, I don't want to hear anything from the Republican Party about how they try.
Yeah. Trump's the criminal, not Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's here illegally, who's been adjudicated under 2 immigration judges as having been a member of MS-13, who has MS-13 gang tattoos, who was arrested with 2 other MS-13 members, who was arrested with drugs and cash on his person, a roll of cash, like not $200, no, a roll of cash, and who has 2 protective orders against him from his current wife for domestic violence, and who has been implicated in human trafficking. Oh yeah. Trump's the criminal. No, this is not flying. The reason I say the Dems are in free fall is because the voters see through this crap. They are employing all of their normal surrogates in the mainstream media. But without all the money from USAID, the Department of Education, and all the government slush funds funding these people like Politico, Bullshitico, and the New York Slimes and all this other stuff, their level of propaganda, their ability to market that propaganda has decidedly decreased. And hence, you've got voters that are no longer buying the lie. Check this out.
Living in Maryland, designated MS-13 terrorist, and Donald Trump deported him. How does that make you feel?
I feel safer.
He gotta go. He gotta go.
Need to go. I mean, that's it.
But he was a father.
But he's still a terrorist.
Okay. I mean, but there's children living without fathers now.
He should have picked and choose, so he picked to be a terrorist instead of worrying about his children.
The Democrats, they want him back. They say he was wrongfully deported. He has a wife and a kid who's a citizen. They're calling this a national emergency. Is this a national emergency?
I wouldn't call it a national emergency. We got more things going on.
We have more things, more fish to fry.
I just found out about it, so I don't think so. What kind of national emergency? For what? What is the emergency for?
Ain't no national emergency, no.
He was accused of hitting his wife twice and was a suspected human smuggler. Was he wrongfully deported?
No, he need to go.
If he's a smuggler, yeah, he need to be deported.
It's better to be safe than sorry.
Your senator here, Chris Van Hollen, he flew to El Salvador where this guy was deported. He met with them, had lunch with them, had margaritas on the table. What's up with your senator?
I have no idea, but I do believe that was a waste of taxpayer dollars.
You agreeing with somebody whooping their wife.
I love her. Margaritas.
Terrorizing where you live, then you don't need to live here either.
Senator Van Hollen, you need to come see me, Mr. Coley, because you doing like that. You need to take care of home before you go in other states.
He went to El Salvador.
Oh, that's another country, excuse me.
What has Senator Chris Van Hollen ever done for you?
Nothing.
Nothing. For me, nothing.
Nothing that I know of.
He ain't do me. I can admit that.
I've never even heard of this person.
Do you want Kilmar Abrego Garcia, this quote-unquote Maryland dad, living back in Maryland?
No. No.
No. No.
Not if he's doing trafficking, no. Why the want somebody like that back? No.
What is your message to the Democrats who really want him back in your community?
Why would you want that in my community? Bring it to your community and see how long you like it up there.
Leave them, or y'all go over there with them.
You're focused on the wrong thing.
If they illegal coming over here, send them back.
Could that be a Logan Act violation? Because he in no way, shape, or form, even though he's in the U.S. government, he did not have the approval of the U.S. government to go down there and negotiate the release of a prisoner.
It's very possible, but at something that's even bigger than that is he looks like an utter fool because now the information's coming out about this guy. Obviously, yes, he was in the country illegal. His wife was saying he was an abusive person. He was hanging out with MS-13 gang members when he got picked up, and he's down in El Salvador trying to negotiate a release. This is the buffoonery of the Democratic left. It's the reason they were boat raced last November. It's the reason they will continue to lose. How about a...
Absolutely. They were boat raced in November because of this exact behavior. Their Trump derangement has taken over to the point that they are actively shilling for criminal terrorist gangbangers. And the public sees through it. As the lady said, if they're illegally, deport them. You got to go. You got to go. Gots to go. Get out of here. Absolutely. So The Dems are in free fall, so Trump is winning there. And yet, so the propaganda media has attempted another hoax. They are trying everything desperately to derail the Trump presidency. So they have made up another fake BS story. Let's dive right into the latest attempt to take out Pete Hegseth. They hate Pete Hegseth because Pete Hegseth is cleaning up the gigantic $900 billion swamp that was the Pentagon, the Department of Defense. It was a gigantic slush fund for starting wars, conducting LGBTQ experiments around the world and in this country, and they are scared to death because Hegseth will have nothing to do with any of that. And so they are trying desperately to take him out. But neither Hegseth nor Trump are playing ball. Check this out. Before we get into this, please like, subscribe, comment. Let us know how we're doing. And if you like this content, please share it with everybody that you know. Great having everybody in. Nelly is in the house. Gobo is in the house. Thanks, everybody, for rolling up. Really appreciate it. Here we go.
It does. They take an honor to be here at the Easter egg roll, I'll tell you that. Be with the family, beautiful day. And President Trump is changing the country. And he's creating opportunities for families all across America to better their lives. And that's what Make America Great Again is all about. So,
what do you want to say, sir, about the signal chat controversy?
You know, what a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. Won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. And on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter. So I'm happy to be here at the Easter egg roll with my dad and my kids, because, you know, this is what we're doing it for. These kids right here. This is why we're fighting the fake news media. This is why we're fighting slash and burn Democrats. This is why we're fighting hoaxsters. Hoaxsters. This group, no, this group right here, full of hoaxsters that peddle anonymous sources from leakers with axes to grind, and then you put it all together as if it's some news story. And when we know it, we know exactly what it is. So I'm really proud of what we're doing for the president, fighting hard across the board, and I'm going to go roll some Easter eggs with my kids. Thank you very much.
Absolutely classic. Yes, Pete Hegseth, stand in their face and call them who they are. They are lying shills for the globalist cabal of corruptocrats. Now, this has been reported everywhere. He blasts the disgruntled, because they fired a lot of leakers, remember. They blast the disgruntled employees. There's all sorts of angles to this story that people just don't realize. Now, I'm going to get into the actual story. Let's dive right over there, because this story was really fronted by two different groups. The first was the New York Slimes. Hegseth said to have shared attack details in second signal chat. So they came out with anonymous sources, anonymous leakers. And the DOD said that Hegseth had a second signal chat. How they knew about it, who knows, right? No one ever stops to think, well, wait a minute. If the signal chat was with him, his wife, and his brother, did his wife and his brother roll on him? I don't think so. So where did these morons get the knowledge of this signal chat, these anonymous sources? Anonymous basically means non-existent. If you're not willing to go on record, you're not a source. Sorry. So they claim that he had a second signal chat where he discussed sensitive information with his wife. Now, this is from the New York Slimes. The other outlet that pushed this was Politico, as we say, bullshitico. Now, Politico and the New York Times, we both know, everybody knows now because of USAID, because of the work that Doge is doing, were massive recipients of laundered taxpayer dollars. Money that was laundered through NGOs, back to Democrat coffers, or through NGOs, and then multiple other NGOs, and then into the hands of foreign influencers who then basically gave that money to the likes of Politico and New York Times. So these media outlets, along with PMSNBC and a lot of them, they received millions, even billions of dollars of taxpayer laundered money, illegally, fraudulent money. Well, they don't have any of that anymore. So they're not able to push this story like they were able to push stories like the fake Russia collusion hoax, the Hunter Biden laptop, disinformation hoax, all this other nonsense. Now, these same news outlets that are up in arms over Hegseth sharing details with his wife had no problems when this was prep for the G7 meeting. No problem there. Oh, wait a minute, because they knew that Biden was a mental midget. They knew that Biden was mentally diminished. They knew that Biden had severe cognitive decline, cognitive issues, that Joe Biden did not know what planet he was on half the time. He didn't know where he was. He couldn't figure out what to say because he had a physical ailment in his brain. So she was running the country. But no, the Democrats had no problem with that because they don't care about America. Now, with that, Trump weighed in on this situation because, again, all of this is designed. What they were able to somewhat successfully do in Trump's first term was drive wedges between Trump and some of his staunchest allies. There were never any wedges driven between him and the administrative establishment deep state goons. No, none of that. They drove wedges between him and Flynn and him and the other staunch supporters. And they did it usually by feigning this, massive public opinion against so-and-so. Well, Trump's not buying it anymore. He knows the game. He knows the grift, and he's out on it. Check this out.
I mean, I hear they're doing that whole thing again. Here we go again. Just a waste of time. He is doing a great job.
Why do you still have confidence?
Because he's doing a great job. Thanks, Ask the Houthis how he's doing. Ask the Houthis how much there's function there. There's none. Pete's doing a great job. Everybody's happy with him. We have the highest recruitment numbers I think they've had in 28 years. No, he's doing a great job. It's just fake news. They just bring up stories. I guess it sounds like disgruntled employees. He was put there to get rid of a lot of bad people, and that's what he's doing. So you don't always have friends when you do that. I mean, I hear they're doing that.
Absolutely classic. Trump standing firmly behind Hegseth. Now realize they want to get rid of Hegseth for several reasons. The biggest one, he runs the largest line item on the federal budget other than now interest on the national debt. And that is or entitlements, which they can't touch. That is the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense, along with USAID, was a giant liberal slush fund, but it was 20 times bigger than USAID. So the grift and the corruption coming off the DOD was massive. It was also a DOD that was in lockstep with the CIA and the State Department, as Mike Benz calls it, the blob, running around the globe, starting new wars, overthrowing governments, influence peddling, all this criminal activity that ultimately led to more foreign wars, more U.S. spending, more human deaths, and the U.S. always involved in all of it. And it was a design by the globalists and the establishment to reorder the world and eventually do away with Western civilization and bring us all into some level of new CCP-style technocracy where they would be the aristocracy running the show forever. And Trump and Hegseth want nothing to do with it. He is divorcing us from foreign wars. He is divorcing the nearly $1 trillion of DOD spending from any type of DEI, LGBTQ, ridiculous, social engineering. He's getting rid of all that. He's putting the war fighter back in the DOD and making the world once again seriously afraid of the U.S. armed forces. And that does not bode well for the globalists. Hence, they need him out. And so they are running a full court press to get rid of him. We're going to end with this clip where Caroline Leavitt was talking about the fact that this fake news that Trump was going to replace him and the fake news that he had the signal chat are exactly that, fake news. Now, let's not forget that signal, when the Trump administration rolled in, they were handed signal by the Biden administration and the CIA saying, hey, this is a great app. As soon as that happened, unfortunately, the Trump administration should have ditched it. Hell, they should have gone with regular text messages, more secure at this point, because the owner of Signal is a huge Democrat donor. They're a huge Democrat pawn. So I want to know if this Signal chat actually existed, which I don't believe it does. Otherwise, they'd have produced the receipts. Even if it did, and obviously the one with the ridiculous journalist, Goldberg, that one did exist. How did that get leaked? How did he get on there? Was it because the owner, the CEO of Signal, is a big Democrat donor? Did they have access to the Signal chats? Do they have access to put people on? Obviously, you've got really bad deep state actors in the administration, establishment actors in the administration that could have pulled that off. So you have to be very careful. I think they should ditch the whole thing and go with encrypted communications of some other type. But regardless, let's check out Caroline Levitt. Here we go.
The president stands strongly behind Secretary Hegseth, who is doing a phenomenal job leading the Pentagon. And this is what happens when the entire Pentagon is working against you and working against the monumental change that you are trying to implement. Secretary Hegseth was nominated for this position because he is standing up for the war fighter, the men and women in uniform who are putting their lives on the line to protect our country and our homeland. And unfortunately, there have been people at that building who don't like the change the secretary is trying to bring, so they are leaking and they are lying to the mainstream media. We've seen this game played before. The secretary is doing a tremendous job, and the president stands strongly behind him.
Absolutely. Hegseth is doing an amazing job. Trump loves him. Trump's going to stand by him. The entire real administration is standing by him. And it's time, as Laurel Loomer has pointed out over and over again, that they root out the establishment operatives inside the administration. Get rid of these people. Find out who they are and get rid of them. We need real loyalists inside the Trump administration to make sure that these leaks do not happen, to make sure that the nuts and bolts of his agenda get pushed forward. They need real people. And let's make sure that the real bad ones, the bad actors, get out. Hey, thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Lynn saying, we thought it was this bad, praying for the administration. Absolutely. He's fighting multiple fronts. He's fighting the ridiculous judiciary and the tyrannical, black-robed lower court inferior judges. He's also fighting, in some cases, the Supreme Court. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's fighting the Dems on every level. He's fighting the establishment and the elites. Let's make sure that he's got what he needs. Thanks so much for joining me here. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Thank you so much. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, share the Chris Highland Show with everybody that you know. Let's help build the channel. Thanks so much for showing up today. Remember, God is good and he is sovereign. It'll all be good in the end. Till I catch you next time.